Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing for the national anthem of Uruguay.
The Uruguayans, led by Carlos Arboleda, just 25.
The national anthem of Canada.
There is Pat Ryden, the captain, wearing 2 on his back, the hooker for Canada today. A man who, they tell me, is somebody you'd want in times of trouble. So he'll be leading a Canadian side here, full of experience. A number of them have played and continue to play in the championship in England. And there we can see them just having a little huddle. That's Luke Tate over on the far side. His elder brother is the forwards coach for this Canada team. Well, the referee today, Jérôme Garcès of France, one of France's most prominent referees, although he was involved in a bit of a controversy in the French top 14 semi-final a couple of weeks ago, the match involving Johnny Wilkinson. More on that a little bit later. It'll be Canada playing from right to left. The side ranked 14th by the IRB, up against the nation who are 20th. But if there is not so much an omen, but a bit of encouragement to the Uruguayans in a contest for 5th place at the Junior World Rugby Trophy in Moscow last week, it was Uruguay who beat Canada 13-11 thanks to a penalty in the final minute. Well, it will be the right wing, Kieran Hearn, who is going to get us underway. The referee, Monsieur Garcès, just waiting for the appointed hour, and the 2010 Churchill Cup gets underway. There he is, Kieran Hearn. And back in England, we may well have history on our side, Gareth, but when that's the first catch going forward off the hands of Uruguay. In England, we may well have history on our side, but looking at some of the names of the clubs in your part of the world, there are some terrific names. Kieran Hearn, who got us underway there, playing for a club called The Rock.
The Newfoundland boys, a bad start here from the Uruguayans. I think it was Manuel, Big Diego Manuel going up. That's going to put them right under pressure, scrum right under the sticks.
Got a huge surge there from the Uruguayan front row. They've got some fairly sizable gentlemen in that front row. Pablo Lemoyne, all 126 kilograms on him. He's now 35, but he has the experience of having played in both the Premiership and the French top 14.
Well, the same influence we see in Argentinian rugby, a huge scrummaging presence in Uruguay. It's just to see the warm-up. You saw Corral and Magne just having a nice slow warm-up, but the scrummaging was, you see, he got in early. It was Woolridge who got popped on the near side, so that's a trouble there early for the Canadian front row.
I think if you've seen the Argentines play a lot of rugby, we'll see that this Uruguayan side very much out of the same mould. The two countries adjacent. It's only something like a 15-minute flight from Montevideo to Buenos Aires. We're going to see plenty of weight in the front row, keeping the ball tight, and I would have thought a big kicking game between 9 and 10.
I think so. I think we're going to see Cafera, the number 10 for Uruguay, putting boot to ball. Not only are they a great kicking nation, but we're at altitude here, and the ball will travel that much further. So maybe some opportunities for the Canadians to counterattack.
So it's Manuel Martinez, just 5'6" with a put in the scrum half. There is Cafera, the fly half, rather predictably. The first ball high into the air, not really enough depth on that. Mensacoca wasn't underneath it, neither was Pritchard, but there was a little bit of obstruction there, and being singled out was Juan Martin Jovet.
Yeah, Jovet way too early there. Pritchard had it well in his sights and the body out. Wasn't really deep enough. The kicking tactic is obviously first choice, but not more than 10 yards past the initial point of the scrum. So at altitude, the reason you kick those high up and unders, Martin, is because you can get that much more hang time and get that much further downfield. So a weak kick there from Cafera to start the game.
So Ander Munro, the Canada fly half, taking play up to 10 metres inside the Uruguay half. That's Munro. Aaron Carpenter, good with ball in hand. It's a very mobile back row, this Canadian one. DH van der Merwe, that wasn't the best pass, and Van der Merwe having to bend his back, and perhaps should have been expected to take that, but the referee playing advantage here to the Uruguayans. Cafera with a little neat dink over the top. Pritchard did well to catch it over his shoulder, combining with Munro. Munro over halfway. Mensacoca getting it from a standing start. The tackle coming from Levas. Play just 7 or 8 metres inside the Uruguay half. Fairhurst, Munro spinning it wide to Hearn. Missing out Carpenter. That's an early touch from Mackenzie. Mackenzie offloading to Carpenter. This is good from the Canadians. They've retained possession. Fairhurst again. There's Munro. Pritchard up in the line. DGH van der Merwe finding a gap there in the midfield. Couldn't find any support though. Taken on by the captain Riordan up to the 22. This is good continuity from Canada. Fairhurst. There's Mackenzie again, trying to step inside with the ball coming out of the tackle. The referee says it went backwards though. There's Munro, turning, twisting. The tackle coming in from Jovet. All the early pressure coming from the Canadians. Fairhurst, feet inside. That time to Tyler Hodson, but it's gone forward out of the tackle. And an opportunity here for Uruguay to clear their lines, and that's over the head of Adam Kleberger, and that was a good kick.
Well, good refereeing after the knock-on, allowing the Uruguayans to kick it downfield. But before that, great phase play from Canada, building up pressure, and noticeably going from side to side, going quite wide with their attacks, still securing possession. Here was the good kick into space after the Canadian turnover. So a positive start, although they've lost all sorts of territory here with a knock-on.
It does go to show on a very hot sunny day up at more than 5,000 foot of altitude, Gareth, just how important it is to retain possession. All that good work really being undone there.
Definitely, and a beautiful surface here in Glendale, a purpose-built stadium for rugby in North America, which is a rare thing, but the ball's going to roll as well as travel a long distance.
Another test of the ride and throw to Luke Tate. Luke Tate, who's been playing for the last couple of seasons at Mont de Marsan, the former top 14 side, who finished down in 12th this season in Pro Dirt. And Luke Tate has been released, so he's looking for a new club. That's Ivo Dugonjic, the fullback. That name, which sounds rather more Eastern European than South American, but he is apparently from a Croatian family. Bit of hang time on that for Aaron Carpenter. He remains solid. Out to Pritchard. Pritchard into Hearn. Hearn, very tall, strong. Good tackle though, that time by Jovet.
Oh, he's chosen the wrong side there. There were numbers to the near side.
And the kick not far being off, well executed, but I think that's gone straight dead, so we're going to be coming all the way back for a scrummage. So, well, on those very, very fine edges do the good kicks succeed and fail.
A great shame there were two straggling Uruguayan defenders on the near side, the bottom of your screen, and 5 or 6 Canadians lining up to attack, but the play went right. Another turnover.
So, just a little more than 6 minutes gone in the first half, in the first game here at the 2010 Churchill Cup. Still waiting for points. Uruguay playing from left to right. Martinez with a put-in. Another powerful scrummage. Cafera looks up, sees a bit of a gap. Pritchard has read it pretty well, but that's a superbly close kick.
He's going to have to deal with it.
Well, Pritchard was, well, we thought he was quite sharp there, although Monsieur Garces looking over to his touch judge. The, well, DTH van der Merwe there with the attempt at the quick drop kick, but it was nudged forward, and Adam Kleberger and also Justin Mensikoka squaring up with their opposite numbers, but that rather a comedy of errors from the Canadians.
It was. Well, here you see Pritchard taking it in with his foot in touch, and he was awarded the 22. A quick one to DTH van der Merwe. Van der Merwe is this type of player. Unfortunately, he's knocked on here after the short kick to himself, but he will win games or lose games for you. Now he's in at 13, playing most of his season for Glasgow on the wing, so the first test for him at the centre position.
Yes, he plays outside the likes of Graham Morrison and Max Evans at Glasgow, two international centres. Another solid scrummage, picked up by Grignola. Good offload, that was coming in hard, was Juan de Freitas, but it's turned over. There's Hearn. Hearn's got Pritchard on his right. He's also got support from van der Merwe. Better hands that time from van der Merwe. Pritchard took the tackle, looked for the support, it wasn't there, but he did well to stay on his feet. The Canadians have made good ground. That's Hodgson, big hit coming in from Decas. And they've won themselves a penalty, and they're showing themselves to be very physical, aren't they, the Uruguayans?
Yes, when they're there, physical, but they were short of numbers. Canada had a breakout from their own end. The Canadian player holding on in the tackle, I think, was Tyler Hodgson, second row from Plymouth Albion, with a good season. See here, good solid tackle, and Hodgson not presenting that ball. Immediate support there from the Uruguayan players as well. But you just see number 3 arriving in your screen there. He's walked all the way from one corner of the pitch to the other, so if it's any indication, some of these big Uruguayan forwards who are scrummaging very well at the moment, must be said, winning the hits and getting good possession there. But if we keep moving them around the field, I think it's going to be a long afternoon for some of these big Uruguayans.
Juan de Freitas there, the inside centre for Uruguay, with 12 on his back, taking play up to the 22. De Freitas just 20. A team made up of a dozen or so players who were younger than 25. The backbone of this side were involved in the Junior World Cup 2 years ago, where Uruguay did so well. There's Fairhurst. Canada really have an advantage. There's several inches in the line-out, so expect them to thrive there. Good work again by Canada, putting pressure, and they've won themselves a penalty.
A very aggressive, excellent kick from scrum half Fairhurst. Well downfield, and Adam Kleberger, the flanker, immediately on the scene. Good tackle, wrapping up, and then watch the legs start driving here. And as the red jerseys arrive, they keep driving, and that's what wins momentum. You see the Uruguayan player can't turn and present the ball, and ultimately a penalty.
That illustrating just how mobile and strong this Canada back row is. Adam Kleberger on the open side flank. The Rotherham Titans, supported by Aaron Carpenter, who played last season for Coventry. Now, those two fellas, just a couple of weeks ago, were playing against one another in a championship relegation playoff. That's a little bit untidy. And eventually it's come out on the Uruguay side. Martinez working the short side, trying to find Otter with the pass, but the referee was playing advantage. Canada going in from the side.
Well, big Doug Woolridge, the Canadian prop, deemed to have come in the side there. So more turnover ball for Uruguay. They're clearly slowing the tempo down. Brought in De Freitas to get this downfield. Wonderful kick. You can just sense these kicks hanging up there in the air a little bit longer. It really does make a difference. Obviously, we've seen it in South Africa over the years. I played up the road here in Colorado Springs, and it's quite amazing. You hit a normal kick that goes another 20 meters down the field.
Yes, if you know your rugby geography, here in Denver, you can draw a parallel with the likes of Pretoria and Johannesburg. That's the sort of height we're at. So it will play a part. It burns the lungs, the Freitas there, but he's lost the ball forward, and Jerome Garces has blown his whistle. It'll be a scrummage and a Canada ball.
Early test there for the Canadian defensive system. As I mentioned, Mike Griffiths is in town from Wales. He's been working with the defensive structure. He obviously worked with the RGC 1404 team, which is a team that had 10 of the Canadian younger players over there working in an academy format, which is very successful.
Yes, you're very coach heavy. You've got enough to fill a small bus at the moment. Clyde Griffiths, you just mentioned there, who was the Wales defence coach when Wales won the Grand Slam 5 years ago. Very recently was on the coaching staff at Worcester alongside Mike Ruddock. Good catch there from Dugonjic, the fullback. Not making as many metres as he might have liked with a kick, though.
So days like this are a nightmare to play fullback. You see Dugonjic had to cover a lot of ground. With the ball going that much further, you've got the whole back area to cover, but didn't really put much back on that kick.
10, please.
Good catch there from Kleeberger. Monroe. O'Toole finds a space. O'Toole's got support from Carpenter, but I think O'Toole's going to go all the way, is he? He grounds the ball. Jerome Garces doesn't need to refer it, and that was a super break from Chauncey O'Toole, perhaps the least known of the Canadian back row forwards, but he saw the gap and he took it.
Well, the fleet of coaches will be very happy with that. Anytime you score off a set move, good line-out possession, and O'Toole found the hole and had more than enough pace to finish it off. You see good off-the-top line-out ball. Dummy runner doesn't get used, and O'Toole, a massive hole in the Uruguayan defense, but he does very well. Keep his feet moving. A couple of dubious tackles, and he just reaches out there. Chauncey O'Toole, probably the bright find playing with that group in Wales, and is just a really talented player from Belle Isle in New Brunswick. It's the first score here for Canada.
Wasn't it good to see just how Aaron Carpenter, to his right now, was right on his shoulder.
Yeah. Very rangy, very good players. Been playing out of Victoria the last few seasons, but had this opportunity in Wales, and was really the find of the group over there. Very physical as well. He's had some problems with the letter of the law, shall we say. He's one of those flankers that likes to play on the edge, but when he's running like that, you can put up with a few penalties on the other side.
Yes, we've made a mention a couple of times of this association between Rugby Canada and his development side in North Wales, coached by Clyde Griffiths. They're known as RGC 1404, and I think it was like 9 Canadian international players spent the second half of the winter there, and it seems to work for both North Wales and Canada.
I think so. I think it's been very positive for the Canadian players to be over there, immersed in a rugby culture, and just playing high level of competition week in and week out. The likes of James Pritchard have been doing this for Bedford over the years, and you see the benefit when he comes back to put on a Canadian jersey.
Oh, James Pritchard was popping him over from halfway when I watched him yesterday, so that was very easy indeed, but a good start for the youngster. Chauncey O'Toole just earning his 6th cap today. Came on as a replacement in last year's bowl final.
Okay.
Yeah, a few backs, Uruguayan backs didn't really like their chances taking the big man on the move.
Canada well stocked in back row forwards. Stan McKean, the Oxford University student, he's a law student at Oxford, has been a starter in each of the last 2 varsity matches, injured and unavailable to come. As McKenzie to find the Merva Pritchard, and here's a bit of space for Mensakoka, but it was a classic case of eyes up before he had the ball in hand. That was a chance that went begging for the left wing.
Simple hands moving to the outside. There was an overlap. Mensakoka just put it down. Coach Kieran Crowley obviously said the contest will be up front, but he really liked his chances behind the scrum as well. They've got an exciting back line. He's obviously given them license to move the ball, as we say there. First phase, simple hands, and they got the overlap. Mensakoka, good technical restart. Great support there for Luke Tate, and a good solid possession. Canada was able to move wide.
Balls,
Justin Mensah-Coker will thrive in conditions like this, having spent his season at Moseley in Birmingham in the championship this season. Not quite sure what next season holds for Justin Mensah-Coker. He says he's got the opportunity of staying at Moseley, but he is considering moving to another club. The little chip forward there from Cafera over the head of Pritchard. Pritchard goes back. The bounce was friendly for the fullback. Kicks in field. Back to Cafera again. He pumps it high. Well, Lievas is after it, but I think he was rather ahead of the kicker there. Well caught by Hearn, who calls the mark.
Well, we saw their clear game plan. Uruguayans one phase off the scrum, then kick to the corner, then return the kick again. So I think just trying to save their legs. Maybe they are a little bit heavy in the legs after that South American Championship, where they had 3 games in a short period. And maybe they just feel it's their best tactic to try and get some field position and capitalize on some Canadian mistakes.
So a little more than quarter of an hour gone.
Well, let's see if he was maybe offside here. Here's the pick from the number 8. Simple hit up, good tackle from Amanda Monroe. And then second phase, really not that ambitious, kicking into space. So he's not going to cause many problems for this Canadian defense with those kind of tactics.
The captain of the layout with the throw. There's Martinez to Cafera. Changing direction. Back goes Fairhurst to Pritchard. Pritchard in the shadow of his own post. This is ambitious to Mensah-Coker. Stepping inside through tackles. I think Mensah-Coker well out of the back of the hand to Carpenter. Carpenter with a kick and chase. Back goes Dugonjic. There's Mensah-Coker again. Out to Pritchard. Pritchard comes out of his 22. The little chip over. Well, that was taken by Otter. And Pritchard has gone down. And Pritchard appears to take one on the chin. Martinez, Cafera. It's over the shoulder of DTH van der Merwe. A little bit too much weight on that. And van der Merwe saw him stretch his left leg beyond the touchline, and he was rather hoping that we go all the way back for the scrummage, and 1 or 2 of the Canadian players are calling for it, but the official on this side, who seems to have given 1 or 2 mixed messages to Jerome Garces.
Yeah, I think they've got it sorted out, and they're going to have a look at Pritchard, who, after spotting a little bit of room in behind Uruguayan defense, you see the touch judge clearly calling that as a kick straight into the 22. But you see, he chipped ahead, didn't get the bounce, and then the knee came up. I don't think there's any malintentions there, instinctive to protect yourself, and I think he got it right on the chin. He did get up shortly after this, and they're treating him now. Mensah-Coker, good break, coming back to the inside. Great offload here, and obviously great communication. Aaron Carpenter has had 4 or 5 early touches here, even deciding to kick there. But really leading by example here, there and support all the time, and great communication there to Mensah-Coker.
Well, we are coming back to the 22. Well, James Pritchard now back on his feet. That's Ed Fairhurst, the scrum half, who has to return home to Vancouver after today. After a period in professional rugby, he now earns his living in the finance world as Ed Fairhurst. He's got to go back to work on Monday.
And I think there may actually have been a blood sub. There's Pritchard, he's on his feet, but doesn't look... young Matt Evans has come on at fullback. He's just signed with one of the great European clubs, Newport Gwent Dragons.
Yes, having been a student in Gloucester at Hartbury College. Well, Cafera hoists it high. And there he is, Evans. Well, far too quick for Justin Mensah-Coker, and Amanda Monroe wasn't really waiting for it. There's Dugonjic. Van der Merwe with the left knee strapped. Here's Mensah-Coker. Here's Evans, straight into the tackle of Jovet. Fairhurst to Monroe. There's the big second row, Luke Tate, up to halfway. Monroe did well to pick that up.
Oh, there was a hole for him too after he doubled around.
And Horta claiming the ball for Uruguay. Here's Martinez. There's the big fella, Lemoyne. The second row, Badano. Up towards the 22. There it is for Martinez again. This is better from the Uruguayans. Cafera had to turn around for that. The little chip forward. That should be comfortable for Hearn. Hearn. Well, the kick half charge down from Matt Evans. And once again, speeding through is Juan Pablo Horta.
A bit of a funny game at the moment. We're having a water break. I think they deserve it. A lot of kicking. Here Hearn just pushing it back, and Horta almost got the block. Good pressure from him. But both sides, just Canadians going a bit wider, at least chancing their hand, but pretty uninspired stuff in terms of some poor kicking and some tired bodies out there already, and we're going to have a water break.
Yes, we talk about the stadium here at Infinity Park, and there's no doubt it's a great surface, but there is an awful lot of grass in it, and you put that in the mix with the altitude and grass, which I wouldn't describe as bottomless, but certainly your boots sink a long way into it. It's going to be pretty tough when you move into the final quarter here.
And to be fair to these Uruguayan players, you see they're getting some ice packs and some water. Coach Cameron did say in the intro that they're coming from their winter, obviously. So this is a big test for them, coming to this kind of heat. Yeah, any help they can get.
Well, 7 points separate the sides at the moment. Let's look back at the try here, and it really was a personal triumph for this fella.
Well, Chauncey O'Toole got his knees up, just had enough at the end. Good hole he found, and you see the defensive wall breaking down from Uruguay. Bit of a handoff, and then more than enough pace to get by the blind winger and reaching out. Very athletic Chauncey O'Toole, and really one of the bright hopes. I know the Canadian coaching staff are very, very pleased with his progress, and they're looking forward to this guy and what he can do.
And as far as the Canadians are concerned, it's all about building up, isn't it, to the next World Cup in just a little more than a year's time. If we look back over and look upon rugby as a 4-year cycle, where is Canadian rugby? Are we a step ahead, a step behind where we were in 2007?
We've obviously got a new coach in town in Kieran Crowley, the New Zealander, and he's building up his team, as we see a few guest coaches. Neil Barnes is in from New Zealand, and Clive Griffiths is in, along with John Tate, former Cardiff Blues and Breve player. So they're building up a feeling, and they're building up systems, as you heard Crowley talk about. And these are the tests where you put your system in place and you find out. I think he's starting to get a core of players. You see Pat Riordan, the captain. He's definitely the leader. He's the talisman at the moment. But they're trying to pad it out with quality players around him. And there's a few more professionals to come. But the domestic players are working a lot harder and seem to be physically much more prepared to play at this level.
Let's talk about a couple of those professionals. One in particular, the most prominent Canadian international in world rugby these days, Jamie Cutmore.
Yes.
Won the French title at long last with Clermont-Auvergne. Hasn't played, though, for Canada since the World Cup in 2007. Presumably he's going to come back on the run into 2011. Do you get resentment within a squad when a guy seems to pick and choose?
I don't think the squad guys do. I know some of the supporters do, because they don't quite understand the commitment he's having to make over there and the pressure, especially a club like Clermont. The pressure was on them to win that championship. So he will be back, but the coach has to manage his time away from the team.
Good catch there from Gaston Mieres. Here's Cafera, 5 metres inside his own half, looks up, sees a bit of space again. Really the game plan is very straightforward, isn't it, from Uruguay? Cafera, right boot, kicking for the corners.
Yeah, I'm surprised the Canadians aren't jumping on a few of these kicks. They seem to be leaving them a lot of space to kick into. I know their intent was to counterattack some of these kicks as they came in.
There is Pat Riordan, former ice hockey player. And now I understand he's part of your family, isn't he? Congratulations, you just become a father, and it's as a result of that that Pat Riordan is now on your family tree.
He is. He got married 3 weeks ago to my wife's sister, and now the scary thing is he's actually uncle to my child. So it's be very interesting, and I'm sure he'll provide lots of moral advice, leadership.
Yes, I'm trying to construct a family tree on a bit of paper in front of me here. It's got a lot of branches, I think, between you and Mr. Riordan, but certainly you're going to be fairly close, aren't you? But he's a super captain, isn't he? He's the sort of man who you want in the trenches. I know he enjoys the outdoor life. He likes fishing. He likes a lot of the outdoor pursuits, doesn't he?
It's something that went away from the Canadian team for a while, is sort of the pride. And he's a very, very proud Canadian. And as you say, he's based out of Victoria now, and his sole focus is to get this team to the World Cup and perform better than we have been in the last couple of World Cups.
Well, Luke Tate getting up there, almost stealing it for Canada, but There is Martinez. Good counter-rucking from the Canadians, and it's untidy ball for the South Americans to deal with. Well, there they have it. Martinez just marshalling the troops. Running Decas.
Well, this is all slow ruck ball, so they're not really going to open any holes in the Canadian defense. As you see, they're barely getting back to the gain line when they produce the ball.
That was Lemoyne taking it into the contact. Martinez, here's Cafera. Once again, the high ball. There's Matt Evans underneath it. Takes a good catch, gets his kick away despite the pressure of De Freitas. But that's gone directly into touch, so Matt Evans learning rather swiftly the effects of altitude on a flying ball.
Yeah, and not a great start from Matt Evans. As we said, he's been based out of Hartsby College in Gloucester. Just signed with, what am I supposed to call them? Newport Gwent Dragons now. It's changed from my day, but great for him to be there under Paul Turner, the tutelage of one of the great fly halves, I think, of our time. So he hasn't had a great start here, Matt Evans, and a poor kick there, but it'll be a great opportunity for him to get into Newport.
Yes, you mentioned Paul Turner, one of the great brains as well, a real thinking player, and he's taken that into the coaching world as well, and he's done pretty well with relatively limited resources at the Dragons. And they've got themselves a penalty of Canada.
A good example of the Canadian defense. They've been working on the blitz, with the outside defenders coming up a bit quicker, and very effective there against, well, a fairly impotent Uruguayan attack, but it is nice when the systems hold together.
When I did the rugby high school playoff,
Uruguay do still have a chance of qualifying for next year's World Cup. They take on Kazakhstan, who are ranked 5 places beneath them. That's on July the 17th in Montevideo, so it's a match that Uruguay should win. Now, assuming they do win that, they'll then take on the winner of the tie between Romania and Tunisia on a sort of home and away basis for the final place in New Zealand. So Uruguay are building up for bigger things. Well, Munro with the half break, and the pass coming a little quickly for Aaron Carpenter. But here's a break from De Freitas. De Freitas offloading to his captain, Arbeláez. Turned over, good work there from Tiedemann. There's Kleeberger. And Canada surging on. Good quick ball as well from Fairhurst to Monroe. There's Mensah-Coker. Mensah-Coker just spinning through the tackle. I must say, that fella with 7 on his back, Juan Pablo Horta.
He's covering some ground, isn't he?
And it's 10-10, isn't it, all the time? There's Martinez, the fullback, Dugonjic. There's nobody at home on the left wing. Across comes DJH van der Merwe, and look at that ball, and I tell you what, it's almost as if he knew every pimple on that ball, the way that fell for him. The quick throw in, Hearn finding touch. Good thinking there from Canada.
Well, good kick, obviously, but Manuel Martinez, the little scrum half, saw there was space on the blind side. He could have had a chance of a run here, but a wonderful kick down from Dugonjic. Got the bounce and a beautiful roll.
You know a bit about kicking a ball. How do you do that? How much luck's involved?
Speaking of Newport, the Rodney Parade in my day didn't look like this pitch here. It's great for these guys to be able to play on these surfaces, the professional game. That's one of the big changes that isn't often talked about. The surfaces are always so pure, and they're great for place kicking and for dropping out.
So there's the Uruguayan captain, Carlos Arbeláez, only 5'8", and stolen again by Canada. They've got such an advantage at the line out here. As Mensah-Coker finding himself at first receiver. DJH van der Merwe offloading to Evans. Evans has got back to space. He's got Mensah-Coker on one side. He's also got McKenzie. McKenzie running into space. He's got Fairhurst alongside him. Well, he should have looked for the scrum half. Fairhurst again. There's Tate. Try number 2 for Canada. And Luke Tate touches down for Canada.
Well, he'll be happy. Good support from him. It looked like McKenzie may have snuffed out the opportunity. Phil McKenzie getting caught just before the line, but Luke Tate popped it. Look at the simple skip pass, and there's a 4-on-1 out wide. Good running, good lines of running, and good inside support here.
Please.
McKenzie came across. He's got a great sevens background. Has been on the circuit. Really needed to offload, and was fortunate he produced this ruck, because I think a few of the other Canadian boys might have given him a mouthful. And Luke Tate pops up, simple pass, good quick ruck ball, and a nice run in for him under the posts.
It was a wonderful break though, wasn't it, from the centre, who's made the move from Coventry. He'll be playing at Isha next season, along with Mike Schmidt, a man who you know well.
Yeah, former Rotherham and Canadian back row player, and he's got a nice little thing going at Isha, another nice little rugby club. And Mackenzie will enjoy that, but good work from the Canadian backs, creating that opportunity. Big Kieran Hearn it was, he went through. Sorry, yeah, it was Matt Evans that went through, and he offloaded right. There was options on the left, but all sorts of problems for the Uruguayan defense. They did scramble well to create the ruck here, but once the ball was produced, Ferris was on hand. Simple offload, and Tate's under.
Kieran Hearn made it a 7-point score. So there it is, 14 points to nil, just short of the half hour. There's the opening game in the 2010 Churchill Cup. Wherever you're watching in the world, it's just a little after 1:30 in Denver, Colorado. Up at more than 5,000 feet of altitude, so the air is thin and the sun is burning brightly. Temperatures close to 30 degrees yesterday. There's Mieres making a break. Mieres still on his feet. Looks for support. It's Lemoine. Lemoine, the former Stade Francais tight head prop. This is a bit better from Uruguay. They now need the ball. There's Martinez. You got the back row standing off. Oh. That was straight to Dacas, and that was well read by the Canadian defence. They still have it. Martinez working the short side. And a slow ball again. Martinez to his captain, Arbalea.
That's poor play from Canada here. The referee is playing advantage for a penalty. Long drop goal attempt.
Well, it was a drop to nothing, wasn't it? Cafera knew that the penalty was coming.
Well, that really is poor play from the Canadian forwards there, not getting back. There's no danger here from this Uruguay. It was good play, little scrum half. He's the only one who's created a hint of anything. And Martinez got him to the outside, and Mieres almost got free. But you see on the ensuing rucks, there's no danger, there's no threat to the Canadians, and players just stepping up. Here was the drop goal attempt after the penalty had been signaled.
There is big Pablo Lemoine.
Yeah.
11 years ago, he was in the Premiership playing his rugby for Bristol before the move to France. He had 6 seasons at Stade Francais, winning 2 French championships.
Would have had big Mike James, the Canadian second row, pushing him for several years there in 2 of those championships.
Mike James, was he a player, do you think, who perhaps retired a year or 2 early? He went out at the top, didn't he?
He did. He's back in Vancouver, and he did go out at the top. Was a great leader of this Canadian squad too in his day.
So Cafera with a very deliberate kicking style, and also a very accurate one. So Uruguay are on the board.
And you must say, it really looked like the only way we're going to get on the board. And as I say, Martinez has shown a couple of glimpses trying to put people into space. But other than that, pretty basic stuff around the fringes from the Uruguayans.
So James Pritchard is back. Off goes Matt Evans. Pritchard back on, but without a number on his back. It's Justin Mensah-Coker. He's just come off the 7th circuit playing for Canada over the last couple of weeks at Twickenham and at Murrayfield. That was Lievas getting a rare opportunity for ball in hand. Highly regarded by the Uruguayan coaching squad, Lievas. He scored a hat-trick in the recent South American Championships against Chile. There's Mensah-Coker. Pritchard. That's Monroe. Bit of space here for Fairhurst. Fairhurst steps inside to Mensah-Coker again. Good step from the wing. Still going, looking for support. Monroe, the numbers out wide here. Carpenter, there's Pritchard. Pritchard just couldn't find Mackenzie. That's the 22. Referee playing advantage here to Canada. But that was a good passage of play from the Canadians.
Great team play, all the Canadians involved. They're using this set play on the counterattack, coming back to the near side, and it's working well. Good offload. Working through the play. See, they come back to where the ball was kicked, and there's opportunities here. The defense isn't in place for Uruguay. Good offload from Fairhurst. Mensah-Coker moving his feet, and a good early offload here. This really should have been a try. It was 5-on-2. But they picked the ball with the open man and tied up, but they did get a penalty at the ruck. You see the ball goes to the middle, and they're trying to get these slow, tired, big forwards the Uruguayans caught, and it's exactly what Mensacoca finds when he comes back. Fairhurst sees the gap, he cuts inside, and there's all sorts of opportunities there.
There'll be a lot of the talent spotters in European rugby watching this tournament, won't there? It's a real stage for the likes of Justin Mensacoca, who's made it clear that he's for sale, if you like. The
unattached tag, and a few of these players are in that. We saw O'Toole score the first try. He's definitely would be interested in a club in Europe, and it is great for these guys that they have the shop window here where they can impress. The kick was pushed wide, so Pritchard a little bit out of sorts, got tied up in the counterattack there, and the ball probably should have been moved and missed a kick, which is uncharacteristic from him from that position.
Yes, he'll be disappointed with that. There is Justin Mensacoca, who played in France for the Albi club before making the move to Plymouth Albion and then to Moseley. So over the course of the last couple of seasons, he hasn't hung around many places for a long time. There's Fairhurst.
Variation on that counter-attack.
DTH van der Merwe getting that at a standstill, and he was spotted well by Ignacio Grignola. There is Ander Monroe. Well, it was almost claimed by the fullback to Gonjic. Well, here's an opportunity. Hodson on to Tate. Tate half through the tackle. Well, there was the referee saying play on. It's Martinez who goes back to recover it, and he touches it down, but it's going to be a 5-meter scrum.
Yeah, I think it was knocked backwards by the Uruguayan player, and the referee was correct to play on. But again, Martinez saving his country there.
Tackle in the dead zone.
Turnover at the tackle.
5-meter scrum.
Should Canada have been a little more ruthless there?
I think so. I think big Luke Tate hesitated a bit there. I don't think they can quite believe some of the opportunities they're getting. The knock on there right in front, big Doug Woolridge picked it up, moved it off. Lots of opportunities coming, and I really think it's time to turn some of them more into points from the Canadian point of view.
Yes, certainly. Some of the spaces which are opening up here are not going to be available when they play France A on this ground in a week's time. That's going to be a massive clash. That's going to be one which I think will really tell these Canadians where they are.
Well, several fronts there. One, as we look at the gorgeous Rocky Mountains here, one that France are in Canada's pool in the 2011 World Cup, but the side they're bringing is very, very impressive. If the one that's on paper at the moment arrives in town here in Denver, it will be a very impressive side, led by big Fabien Pelouse and a couple of other decent coaches, Olivier Magna helping out in the coaching front. So I think it'll be a very tough fixture.
It's not a bad management squad, is it? Magna and Pelouse.
They've seen a few trenches over the years.
They've been around the block a couple of times. Put in from Fairhurst.
This will be interesting at scrum time, a big 5-meter scrum. And yeah, all sorts of problems for Canada.
And Lemoine once again forcing his opposite number, Doug Wooldridge, to pop up. And the Canadian loose head is having a torrid time.
And I guess the only consolation that he is playing against Lemoine, who is one of the best of his generation, and he'll be using this take. Doug Woolridge was deemed to have popped up there as a great experience. Put some lessons in the bank here.
Well, that clearance kick is something like 60, 70 meters. That, I know, even taking account of the altitude, that was rather impressive from a tight angle. But look here, on the tight head side for Uruguay, Pablo Lemoine is one of the world-class players on show here. Now, they don't have too many in Uruguay, to be honest, but he is one of them.
No, and Alejo Corral on the other side is obviously doing his job.
The steal from Canada at the line-out, but they were a little ponderous there as Orta came through. Orta has been very busy. There's the captain, Arbolea, up towards the 22. Here's a chance for Uruguay. Cafera, bit of space out wide for De Freitas. Mieres was on alongside him. Good cover defence. DTH van der Merwe claiming his man there, but the ball's coming back on this side. Driven on by Bordano. But the fizz and sting has gone out a bit now.
Yes. Very, very slow ball again.
Martinez, Cafera. The back row combining, that was Decas. Martinez, Cafera. Cafera trying to go himself, creating a bit of space, but only finding a Canadian hand. But the ball's gone forward, and it will be a scrummage, a Uruguay ball.
Well, at 37 minutes of the first half here, the Uruguayans shown a glimpse of what they can do. A couple of Canadian mistakes, a couple of turnovers, and they moved the ball. The center, Miras, was very close to going in as they came back. A hint of an overlap here. Good work from Van der Meer, just scragged him, just did enough to drag him down, and that snuffed out the opportunity. Martinez at the heart of everything again. There it was. Just got inside Hearn, but Van der Meer was there to cover it.
Well, here is as good an attacking platform as Uruguay have had.
I wonder if they might go all the way. They've had dominance at scrum time.
Well, I think they might want to use Lievas here. Breaking off the back could be Grignola. That is picked up by Grignola.
Well, big Chauncey O'Toole got over the top of that.
Been well defended by Canada. And at just the time, Uruguay needed a solid scrum, they didn't get it. Well, that was neatly picked up by Ander Munro on the half volley. Here's Cafera. Cafera with Lievas alongside him. There's Lievas. Adam Kleeberger is through. Gets a bit of help there from Luke Tate.
Knock on red.
Oh, Jerome Garces now saying scrum red.
Well, a dreadful pass for
Come on, please.
the kicker to deal with. I think it was Matt Evans at the back to deal with and couldn't find touch.
Well, Adam Kleeberger just down getting a little bit of treatment. Well, inside of half-time.
Okay, play on.
But so far, so good for Canada.
Well, yes, although you think that hint of pressure, had they scored and it had been 14-10 at the break, I don't think Canada would have been happy. Perhaps a couple of chances have gone missing. But I think the pace of this and the heat that's on display here could start to show, and there'll be more holes, even more holes opening for Canada against the Uruguay in the second half.
Well, this will be the final play of the first half in the opening game of the 2010 Churchill Cup in searing heat. And at more than 5,000 foot of altitude, it certainly places a high premium on physical fitness.
Touch. Balls. Engage.
Fairhurst with a put-in. There's Ander Munro. Pritchard. Got Van der Merwe outside him, and there's Hearn coming at speed. Van der Merwe looking for the space. Offloads, trying to find Hearn, but the ball's got into touch on the far side. Jerome Garces. Well, he's given a penalty here to Uruguay.
I think the initial one may have been coming to Canada, and he's taken exception to something the Canadians have said or done. Quite true.
Time off, eh? Time off. Yes, time off. Post. Post.
Well, this kick, if we take into account the angle, is something like 60 meters. But at this altitude, well, that's probably more like just over 50, isn't it? It's about
probably
a 10%.
just under 50, I would say, yeah.
Take account of perhaps 10%, maybe even a little more.
Yeah, well, the veteran Emiliano Cafera from the Champagnat Club will give it a go. It is like playing in South Africa, that any indiscipline can cost you from anywhere on the park.
Well, the additional physical fitness of these players, the improved balls that they play with, has meant that those posts are even more in range than they ever were from your own half, but at the altitude. So Cafera probably won't have too many problems here with the range.
Then again.
Well, it was all very relaxed, wasn't it? And it certainly wasn't out of the middle. Well, the ball goes dead, and Jerome Garces this time blows his whistle for half-time. Canada have the advantage, but what will Kieran Crowley be saying to his side at half-time?
I think the Canadians need to be a lot more ruthless with the opportunities that are presented them. Run harder, a bit more direct, and attack this Uruguayan defense, which looks in tatters at the moment.
Half-time at Infinity Park. Canada lead Uruguay by 14 points to 3. opportunities, but I think it'd be fair to say, Gareth, they didn't take all of them.
No, they didn't. Definitely left them out here. But as Ryan Smith said at the halftime interview there, there's going to be opportunities. They've got to be aggressive and got to take them. And Uruguay need to hold their shape a little bit better in defense.
The restart just eluding Tyler Hodgson. The ball going backwards, though. There it is for Fairhurst to Monroe. Monroe, the long sweeping pass to McKenzie, but the tactic is clear. They're going to try and run everything here. Well, that was DTH van der Merwe offloading in the tackle, but it's gone forward off a Canadian hand, so the referee playing advantage here to Uruguay. In fact, it's a penalty. Canada penalised, going off their feet.
Canada's created a hint of an opportunity there, but the lines of running, there's a lot of sevens players in this Canadian backfield, and the lines of run just aren't varied enough. They're not cutting against the grain. They're happy to go wide, see a simple skip pass, they get a hint of an overlap, but they're all on the same line heading out towards the sideline. And that enables the Uruguayan defense to get across, scrag across, and snuff it out. They need someone coming back off the line and holding that Uruguayan drift defense.
The crowd building here at Infinity Park. The second fixture, of course, featuring the host nation, the United States, up against Russia. Not too many times you get United States up against Russia in team sports. Certainly not in the States, anyway. So, Emiliano Cafera, successful once so far, 1 out of 2. But this kicking style is rather reminiscent of Mr. Todeschini, the Argentine.
Slightly less effective, though, at the moment. Well, that seemed to be a cleaner strike, and it was, straight down the middle. First blood for Uruguay, a good clean strike, especially after the poor effort at the end of the first half.
So bit by bit, they're working their way back into this contest. I mentioned old Todeschini there. He was a lovely striker of the ball. I know he's just left the Montpellier club.
This man, Kieran Hearn, kicking off. A lot of the sevens players are the ones that take the kickoffs now. Not great height on that one. He's pushed it deep.
There's Kieran Hearn, earning his 10th cap today. He's a product of Holy Spirit High in St John's, Newfoundland. Part of the world which I can imagine over the years has not produced that many rugby internationals.
Oh, you'll be brave to head over there now. There's a few. Our former national coach, Dr. Pat Parfrey, was there. He's actually a New Brunswick man, O'Toole. He's one of the Belle Isle men.
Monroe with a pass which was forward, and Jerome Garces was in the perfect position to call it.
Yeah, just Canada taking things. That's a poor mistake. You can't apply pressure when you give up those mistakes. You see where the referee was? Great positioning from him. He's followed off the line out. Clearly a meter forward there. But given the scrum dominance from Uruguay, this is playing right into their hands. It's slowing the game down. And that's a simple error that has let Uruguay off the hook.
Yes, Jerome Garces calling that one absolutely correctly, which is not how he called the opening try in the second top 14 semi-final. The try which in the end cost Johnny Wilkinson's Toulon a place in the French final. Cafera offloading, that's to De Freitas. De Freitas stepping inside. And a bit of a mix-up there involving Martinez and the ball going forward.
Martinez again saw a hint of a gap. Sloppy scrum this time. Not able to capitalize it here. He's flat-footed, but does well to get in behind in an early offload.
And there you can see Mieres coming on the end, but this scrum half, he's a bit of a live wire, isn't he?
He is, and it's a scrum that's going forward, but not really giving him any options, not putting him into space.
Rush, touch, balls, engage.
So Fairhurst, who played rugby at Cardiff as well as the Cornish Pirates before returning to British Columbia. DTH van der Merwe trying to offload there to McKenzie. Fairhurst falls on it, reclaims the ball for Canada. They lead by 8 points. Perhaps, I think it'd be fair to say they should maybe lead by a few more. Pritchard with a kick through. Across comes Mieres. Pat Riordan trying to shepherd his man into touch. The ball still in play. Martinez there with the left boot, but that went directly into touch. But the touch judge over on the far side has got his flag up.
Just get the impression a couple of the Uruguayan backs starting to find their feet. Miera's almost got around the outside there. They remind me very much of Argentinian backs. Flat-footed, well-balanced runners, then can accelerate it at any hint of a gap or an opportunity. So Canadians need to be a little bit more ruthless in executing.
Yes, the IRB rankings, as we look there at Luke Tate, suggest that there are 6 places between these two sides, but I could imagine that Kieran Crowley would like to see those 6 places converted into rather more points than they've got at the moment. Just 8 points separate the two teams. The third squad in this group, France A, many of the players here watching. Just immense Coca taking play up to within about 5 metres of the 22. Well, that was nudged forward, but the referee already playing advantage here, so it's a penalty for Canada, so it's 3 points if they want it.
Well, much better. It was a simple play, one pass, direct confrontation, and the Uruguayans infringe at the breakdown. But it has been a weakness here. We see a few of the fans on hand here, and it's going to build this week. The Churchill Cups are 3 days of events over the next week, and then they move to New York, New Jersey for the big final. So lots of supporters coming into town and support building here, especially with the American game to follow this one. Pritchard will have a very easy shot straight in front of the poles. To even things up and restore the lead from the half. The pace of this game has been very slow. Mistakes from both teams, and I think it really is up to one of these teams to jack it up a little bit.
So Pritchard re-establishes that lead of 11 points.
Well, this is where all the fitness pays off. A hot, sunny day at altitude. All the work both teams have been doing. He said the Uruguayans coming off a winter season, probably less prepared for it, but the Canadians had good preparation coming in 2 weeks. They won't have had these kind of temperatures or this kind of altitude, but they should be ready to launch.
There we can see some of the French who are here. Lionel Beauxis on the right. Olivier Magnier was there in the middle. Magnier, the coach. Beauxis, one of 3 outstanding fly halves here. They've also got Benjamin Boyer, the former Bourgois, has just moved to Bayonne. He's also here in the crowd. I've also seen the most famous sideburns in European rugby, Maxime Médard. Expect to be one of the stars of this tournament. There goes Dugonjic, did well to catch that. Comes out of his 22, long booming kick. Back is Aaron Carpenter. There's Carpenter. Took it back into his 22.
Look out. He's been known to just the Maori sidestep straight forward. It's probably what the team needs at the moment.
Well, slipped through the hands there of Munro, but he went backwards. There's McKenzie offloading to Van der Merwe. He's got Pritchard outside him, who did well to gather it, who couldn't find Mensa Coca.
Once again, the Canadians guilty of running outside, running across the field, not straightening up when they get these half overlaps. And eventually they knocked it on. You can see referee signaling for a scrum. The ball was dropped, but it was cleaned up. You see there's a mismatch, but all of the lines for the red jerseys are outside, running out in front of the defender. And as a result, they're able to get help from the inside, and the whole play is snuffed out.
Well, off goes, after what, less than 50 minutes, the big man, Pablo Lemoine. Made his presence felt in the scrum in the first half, but perhaps rather predictably running out of gas early in the second half. He's now 35. That's the halfway line. Then inside to Martinez. Here's an opportunity for Lievas. Lievas just dropping his shoulder into Ander Munro. Martinez taken on there by Otter. Cafera, the little grubber through with the left foot.
Kicked out of bounds, Uruguay. Canada.
6 red.
Good skills from the Uruguayans here, cleaning up possession. Little offload over the back. Great play from Horta. And then the little grubber through. Good work from Juan Pablo Horta.
Well, as the Uruguayan bodies tire here, I would have thought Kieran Crowley would like to see the ball spun wide and Canada making more of their opportunities. I've rather gone to sleep after claiming those 2 early tries. That's Fairhurst with the high ball. Mieres with a good catch despite the pressure of Hearn. You'd have to say so far, Olivier Magna and Fabien Pelouse, the manager of the Francais squad, will not have seen too much to really concern them. They're in action on Wednesday when they take on Uruguay. The ball going forward there off a Uruguayan hand.
Well, French rugby at the moment does have just incredible depth. So the 3 squads announced, and there they are. Very relaxed they look here in Denver.
There's Maxime Medard in the middle there, with the sideburns and the sunglasses partially obscured behind. I think that's Jean-Philippe Genevois, isn't it, the hooker? Lionel Boxes, you can see in the background.
Great for these young players too to have the likes of Pelouse and Magna guiding them and to learn from them.
It's an illustration of the depth in French rugby that Maxime Medard, who is one of the outstanding rugby players in European rugby, isn't always an automatic start for Toulouse. And the Munro pumping that high. Put down, but then nudged forward out of the fingers of Phil McKenzie.
Well, it kind of sums up the Canadian performance. They've done about 80% of the things correctly. A good kick, good pressure from DTH, but when the opportunity comes, they didn't scoop it up. You see, good, well-timed kick, good pressure from the player off his feet, but a simple pickup with an overlap and the knock-on.
Well, there's no excuse on a day like today, is there? Because the conditions aren't perfect.
No, the only thing is that there are some sweaty bodies out there, and unfortunately the Uruguayans had to play in black. On top of that, they warmed up in lovely white jerseys with numbers on, and then they had to go in and put on the dark jerseys.
Yes, they were grumbling about that last night because their colours are not unlike the Argentine colours, not too many differences, but essentially the sky blue and the darker blue, but they were told they had to wear the black today, which on a day like today, I think it would be fair to say it rather absorbs the heat. The clearance kick there from Juan de Freitas to Pritchard. Here's Mensah Coker coming across field, looks up. Well, that's not the best of kicks.
Decision.
De Freitas was waiting for that one. Hearn attempts to block it with his left foot, misses it, but then gets his second bite of the cherry. Here's Ander Munro. Ander Munro, I think it'd be fair to say he's one of the Canadian players with a rather tenuous association with Canada. He was born in Toronto. His father was in the British military. He was educated in Scotland. In fact, Ander Munro's grandfather is a former SRU president.
Yeah, he played representative rugby up to 19s for Scotland and product of Glenalmond, but he's been in Italy a bit for his pro rugby. He came back and joined the Canadian squad before the last World Cup and has played well. He's with his young son Hector now. They're living in Canada, living in Victoria, British Columbia. So maybe the next generation will have a stronger claim to it. But
no, I was going to make the point. He does actually live in Canada these days, so I won't make too much of that. But Ander Munro, a truly global rugby player. Two-handed catch there from Kleberger. Fairhurst sees a bit of a gap, makes a few metres just inside the Uruguayan half. That's McKenzie playing scrum half to the scorer of the first try, O'Toole, who makes good metres. This is better from Canada. There's Hodson offloading to Tiedemann. Referee playing advantage here to Canada. Fairhurst, Munro. There's Aaron Carpenter. But Jerome Garces sees no advantage. And once again, 3 points if they want it. Meanwhile, a few polite inquiries with fists raised, none thrown.
might have been Mr. Orta again at the middle of it. Got a good one in on Kieran Hearn, the Canadian winger. But there was a fringe at the breakdown. The Uruguayan tackler not releasing. I think maybe, you know, Canada guilty of abandoning this tactic. There's the punch there. Kieran Hearn appealing for some help.
One red. One red substitution.
Oh, right hook didn't really connect.
Well, at least it shows it matters, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's a test match, full test for these guys. And world ranking points on the line, which become so important for the coaches and for the players alike.
Well, Canada making a change there on the loose head side of the scrum. Off goes Doug Wooldridge, the Ontario Blue, earning his 5th cap today, replaced by Tom Dalzell, and another of those great names for Canadian teams from the Prairie Wolfpack. And James Pritchard on target from straight in front, just inside 40 metres for the Bedford player. Well, there he is, the spiky fella, Juan Pablo Horta. And there's the loose head prop, Alejo Corral, who plays his club rugby at San Isidro, which you were telling me earlier is a glorious place, isn't it?
Argentinian club, and as a venue, one of the great club sites, like a country club with a few rugby pitches on the side. But he's one of the few Uruguayans who does play his club rugby in Argentina.
Ball just drifting over to that far touchline. Uruguay competing for it well. Mensah-Coker to Fairhurst. Oh, that was a dangerous pass, and he's in there again, Mr. Horta. And if they get quick ball here, Martinez with a little chip over the top for Mieres to chase. Outnumbered is Mieres. And the referee has blown his whistle, and it's a knock-on off the hand of Gaston Mieres.
Well, Mieres it was who put the call into his scrum to put that kick in behind. Let's see if he has a claim of maybe being obstructed here. Ooh, well, I think Aaron Carpenter was probably going for the ball, and the weight difference probably caught up with him. But good vision from the scrum half yet again, and he did get a hand to it, but wasn't enough. Let's have another look, see if Carpenter maybe nudged him out. I can see it.
Touch. Balls engage.
So another powerful shove there from the Uruguay scrum. They've got it. And the ball's gone down, but I think it was dropped there by Santiago Decas. And I think we might well see, yes, the referee Jerome Garces referring this one, because I mentioned that mistake, dare I say, that he made in the French top 14 semi-final a few weeks ago, in exactly the same sort of circumstances.
Oh, you look, he's in great position. He's ready to award it, the referee, and well,
No.
this will be interesting.
Well, it's Santiago Decas. Now, is there downward pressure? And I think that angle was rather more informative.
He was. Dave Ardrey, the American, is up as the technical match official, so he'll have a good look. And as you say, Garces doesn't want him to make another mistake. Did he get downward pressure?
I think it was the other angle which informed us more, wasn't it?
No,
yeah.
stay here.
You see, even the referee's ready to give it. He's in great position after the stolen head. Hand is on its way up, but then he stops.
This is the one.
Yes, he's not in contact with the ball all the way down, so that will be a scrum for Canada.
Well, Chauncey O'Toole has scored one try today, and I think there we will learn shortly that he saved one as well.
Well, equally concerning for Canada will be the scrum awarded. It was there put in the last scrum where the Uruguayans pushed him off. It stole ahead and should have scored on the blind side.
Knock on black.
And Dave
Knock on
Marbury
black.
says no try.
No.
Let's see if Uruguay can exert the same kind of pressure here, especially with the Canadian subs in the front row.
Okay, come
Tom
down.
Dalzell got a big job to do here.
Crush. Touch.
Well, the last one went against the head. And Fairhurst just turning around to Jerome Garces there and looking for a little bit of support, but the pressure really on in the front row. Andrew Tiedemann over on this side, up against Alejo Corral.
No. Up. Respect the
Corral's
pole.
brother, who represented Argentina in the World Cup 15 years ago.
Well, this is test rugby. This is what it's all about. We've seen all the running around an open field and the kicking, but sometimes it comes down to this, and they'll be working on their craft here. The Canadians getting squinted, but they do get possession.
Well, rather sensibly picked up at the base there by Canada. But the referee playing advantage here again to Uruguay. And you have to say, Uruguay, who appear on the whole to be creating relatively little, are making real nuisances of themselves today.
8 red.
And I think they've dragged this game down to a pace that suits them. They're getting to set pieces where they've been relatively strong, especially at scrum time. And I see even more fresh legs coming on in the front row for Uruguay.
Well, that's a Leo Corral going off. Martin Espiga comes on in place and then moves straight into the loose head position.
Crush! Touch! Balls, engage!
So what a chance is this? Well, and they're penalised, Uruguay.
Even with my Canadian hat on, that's a dreadful call. Uruguay have been dominating all day. They're 7 meters out, looking for that big push to get them back in the game. And the French referees decided that they've infringed. So very frustrating for the players when you get those kind of calls.
Monroe misses touch, just finds Mieres. Here's Dugonjic. Mieres is after it. Not really enough depth on it. That went forward. Off the hand there of the captain, but Uruguay are penalised for being offside.
Penalty.
They were within the 10 meters as the Canadian captain gets the option of a scrum up or a kick back.
Move away.
Taking the kick. The referee deemed that as the ball was landing, the Uruguayan players within 10 meters. A bit of a harsh call, but it was obviously deemed material after Canada knocked it on, so it may have put off some of the Canadian players.
So Canada making a change in the back row. Off has gone Aaron Carpenter. Naniak Dala has come on. That was James Pritchard we saw there without the number on his back.
Well, I think we're going to have our second half water break with the heat here. So 20-6 Canada up. So the nice cold water comes on. Again, probably be looking for a bigger gap at this point and opening up the game, but Uruguay have responded much better at the beginning of the second half.
But Kieran Crowley must be getting frustrated, mustn't he?
I would think so. This is a game, as you said, they're ranked 6 positions below in the world. They probably had better preparation. He's got all his big names back. I know they've got some new systems in place, but really they haven't shown that ruthlessness. In test rugby, you need to take every chance that's given to you and capitalize on it, and the Canadians haven't done that. The Uruguayans haven't offered a great deal, but the defense has been fairly committed. In the last 10 minutes, they've shown a few hints of putting some pressure on the Canadians.
Well, we've seen 2 tries, both of them in the first half. Canada managing to exploit big gaps in the Uruguay defence. This is the first one. O'Toole.
Well, this early on, you thought it was going to be an easy day for Canada. Chauncey O'Toole got the break through the middle of the back line, and he didn't knock on this occasion. You see, he handed off and was only dealing with wingers at this point, rode his momentum and got the reach down. So the blindside flanker doing well. Good breakout from the Canadian backs. McKenzie may have taken it too far, but they were able to recycle the ball. Good support on hand from the Canadian players. And it's Big Luke Take, the second row, who pops up and is able to jaunt on under the posts.
Now, at that point, if you were in the Canada coaching staff, you'd have expected them to go on and score 2 or 3 more, but it's not happened like that, has it? It
hasn't. You haven't sensed an energy lift and a sort of a killer instinct, I suppose, is what you'd say. We've got these guys, we're finding holes, and let's exploit them and let's finish them off. This game could have been over 20 minutes ago.
Is there a bit of rustiness? Because if we look back internationally, this Canada squad, I know they've been together as a group now for 2 weeks, but competitively they haven't played since November, when they did record a good win against Russia after a disappointing tour to Japan.
Well, they did do the same thing against Russia. They didn't go for the jugular. They didn't finish them off when they had them, and it was a bit sloppy. So hopefully with this water break, Canadian captain Pat Riordan will be able to lift his troops and maybe take this up a notch. But they are quite a young side in many positions. So this is something they've got to learn.
Yes, that defeat of Russia coming at the end of November, 22 points to 6, Canada beating the Russians, which is a bit of a form guide to this week. There's Monroe, Hearn, now here's a chance. The offload from Van der Merwe, the support coming in from Evans. Well, they certainly look rejuvenated by the water break, the Canada.
Well, much more direct, good set piece move, good early offload. You see all sorts of bodies running those lines back against the defense. A half gap, an offload from DTH. Unfortunately, again at the end, I think it's going to be a knock on against red, but the early offload, Pritchard hits up, and at the ruck, Canada's knocked on.
So both sides with reinforcements in the front row.
Oh, the makeup call. Two new props in, Marshall and
on the floor.
Bill Zeal. The referee decided that they're cheating this time.
So we're into the final quarter here at Infinity Park. 20 points to 6, Canada lead. They've scored the only 2 tries.
Well, interesting, he's speaking French there, the referee, who is a Frenchman, to Luke Tate, who spent a lot of time playing his professional rugby there, so he was passing on the message.
That's right, Luke Tate just come to the end of about 4 years, I think it is, at Mont-de-Marsan, the former top flight club who finished 12th in the French Pro Dirt at the end of last season. There is Evans to Mensa Coca.
Well, he's looked dangerous, Mensa Coca, when he's had some ball from these long kicks coming in. He's looked dangerous, hasn't quite broken it open yet, but Canada does have an opportunity on the right side.
There's Evans offloading to Kleberger, who's nudged it forward.
Again, a sloppy play, a high-risk pass, rather than take the tackle and recycle. There's a few too many of these one-handed passes going in.
Also on in the second row for Canada, Brian Erickson from the BC Bears, which is one of the most prominent sides in this Canada squad.
And Brian Erickson is, for those Canadian supporters who like a bit of old school, he is a very tough and at times nasty individual, exactly what a lot of people think Canada needs in the pack from Vancouver, from the Mariloma Club, going back to those days of the 90s. And he really is a ruthless player, and a great attribute when people don't like playing against you.
A bit of mongrel in the second row where Canada are concerned. 2 words, Jamie Cudmore.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, Jamie Cudmore, who's expected to be back in the Canada squad ahead of the World Cup next year.
Congratulations to him and his club for finally, I think, on their 11th chance winning the French championship. So well done to Clermont-Ferrand.
Yes, their 11th final.
Keep the pressure.
So 18 minutes for Uruguay to turn round a 14-point deficit.
Now keep the pressure.
The scrum half, Manuel Martinez, plays for the Old Christians Club in Montevideo. That's a powerful shot from the Canada pack. Uruguay still have possession there thanks to Decas. There's Martinez, Cafera, the fly half. Under pressure, plenty of height, not really enough depth on that. Fairhurst is underneath it, just shielding his eyes against the sun. It's very bright out there. The temperature rising all the time. It's perhaps not as hot as it was yesterday. There were a lot of sunburns around yesterday.
Yeah, very interesting scrum here. Both substitute props. You see 17 red. That's Jason Marshall. He's a football player with his whole career as a college footballer. Tried out with that's gridiron I'm talking about here. And tried out with the Edmonton Eskimos, and he's a wonderful specimen of an athlete. Played in the back row. They're converting him into a prop. He's fiercely strong, but just learning the technique, so he did very well there. Let's see how he scrummages here on the near side.
Fresh. Touch. Balls. Engage.
And that's picked up by O'Toole. He's moved round to the number 8 position following the departure of Aaron Carpenter. There's Fairhurst. Good tackle coming in from that man, Otta. There's Luke Tate, one of the 2 try scorers.
No ends now.
And there's the other, O'Toole, picking up and driving. Penalty again to Canada.
See scrum half Fairhurst had a look for the quick tap. Obviously been instructed to keep the pressure on.
Post.
And they're actually going to take the point. So, well, to further send the message, this is a test match. You don't want to take any chances here. It's the first day of a tournament with well, 2 fixtures in this pool for Canada, France, and this Uruguayan side.
Canada have got a full 8 days before their next fixture when they take on France. Where have they got to tighten up?
Well, I think they've got to just loosen up a little bit. They seem to be snatching at the ball, some knock-ons. If they get this many opportunities against France, I think they'll be very, very happy. The lineout's been very strong. The scrum obviously had issues early on. They seem to be rectified a little bit with the substitutes on the field. And just being a little bit more critical, a little bit more ruthless in terms of their lines of run and challenging the opposition defense.
And the Monroe this time, glancing off the right and upright. Well, the ball's come back, and here's perhaps an opportunity.
Oh, and there's Marshall. 17 Marshall, the football player, and it was a football hit. On the poor winger had to deal with that. The kick glanced off the top of the post in the dead ball area and then rolled back into the field of play.
Yes, it was Gaston Mieres feeling the force. So Ryden.
Very good lineup work from Canada all day.
Number 4.
It's Adam Kleberger. He's not the tallest man, is he, in the Canadian pack, but
Number
he's
4.
very often the line-out option. Well, there's a good touch from De Freitas.
Yeah, very good kick again, and relieving the pressure for Uruguay.
Penalty kick to touch by Uruguay.
There's the kick off the very top of the upright. And then as you see, it bounces dead and then comes back into the field of play, forcing the Uruguayans to deal with it.
So Martin Espigo will throw in to the line out. He was on as the replacement loose head prop, but they do have 2 specialist hookers on the bench, do Uruguay, so 3 out of their 22 are almost more happy with 2 on their back. Well, hacked forward there by McKenzie, and DTH Van der Merwe's got it, and Van der Merwe's away. Well, it's a try out of nothing.
Well, DTH Van der Merwe will get the credit, but when you go all the way back, you look at a crushing hit from the Canadian defender. They read it well, they blitzed it, and Andy Monroe stuck his head down and made the crushing tackle. That created the loose ball, and Van der Merwe was able to jump on it. That was ruthless. They took advantage of the opportunity that presented itself. Uruguay, again, not much in attack. You see they go wide, and the Canadian defender, Andy Monroe, gambles and gets it right. Man and ball. That creates loose possession. McKenzie it is that kicks it through. And look at Van der Merwe just popping up. He got a friendly bounce, and he's going to finish from 22 meters out with a back row forward chasing him. So good response from the Canadians.
Yes, Van der Merwe, who plays most of his rugby on the wing. Over Glasgow in the Magners League. And that's a 3rd try for Canada.
You know, in the modern game, we always talk about the point scorers, and we see a lot of the highlights, but you go right back to an individual putting his body on the line. And that's what you really see in Test rugby, someone making the difference. Great read there from Andy Monroe, and he was the one that created the opportunity.
So Cafera with the restart. That almost claimed the second attempt there by Eriksson.
Kicked out off by Canada.
No, it was again who cleaned that up. Bit of an injury, maybe some blood here.
Well, that's
for
the
Captain Arbolea. Not happy.
So the line out just a metre inside the Uruguay half to the back. Not sure it was entirely straight.
After the last attempt to go wide, they've gone back to the original game plan.
Kicked out
Stick it in the corner.
Line out Canada.
So 11 minutes remaining in this opening game in the 2010 Churchill Cup. Canada on their way to victory. And would it be fair to say that they've made rather heavy weather of it?
I think they have. I mean, good to see an opportunistic try like that. But aside that, you know, up until 2 weeks ago, was playing the likes of Brazil and Paraguay. It's tough for the Uruguayans to step up, but equally so, I don't think the Canadians have really, you know, imposed themselves and shown their class.
Luke take the two-handed take, the hoist from Fairhurst. Here's the right wing, Levas. We haven't seen much of today. Levas has scored 4 tries in the South American Championships. And was taken on by Spiga, just inside their own half here, Uruguay. Continuing to work the short side, that was Orte. They looked for a moment as if Canada had stolen that, but it's gone back on the Uruguay side. Cafera, here's De Freitas. De Freitas to Jovet. That's Cafera again. Mieres with a bit of space, steps inside Hearn. Mieres through 2 tackles, through a third, through a fourth. Well, in the end, it was Kleberger who got the vital touch for Canada. They got numbers out wide here. That's the fullback, Dugonchik.
No, first look on his black, after his red.
But a brief cameo from the left wing there. Gaston Mieres, just 20.
First look on black.
One of the youngsters in this Uruguay side. Nearly, well, something like a dozen of the starting 15 younger than 25. But Gaston Mieres, so much had been said about the other wing, Leandro Levas, but Gaston Mieres showing what an able performer he is.
Well, wonderful. He's lifted the pace here. The first shine of brilliance, some really poor Canadian tackling, poor shape. See him bouncing out of tackle. He's only a little man, Gaston Mieres, but great infield run. They weren't able to keep the pressure on after a knock-on. But really the brightest glimpse we've seen from the Uruguayan attack.
Yes, there is Mieres, who only made his test debut last month in the South American Championships when he scored a try against Brazil.
The old Christians Club, where a bulk of this team is. I mean, we've got challenges in Canada developing the game, but really only a handful of top clubs in Uruguay to choose from. So there's issues there, although they do get a lot of support from their neighbors in Argentina.
Yes, and it is worth pointing out that Uruguay do come here without the relatively small number of players they have playing in the European leagues. Perhaps the most famous of all the Uruguayan players is Rodrigo Capo Ortega, who's had a good season at Castres in the French league, plays in the second row. Castres, who came, well, they made the playoffs in France, and Rodrigo Capo Ortega was a regular starter for them.
Well, it's something to build on in some ways for Uruguay, that they've at least shown a bit more spark in this period. They gave up a soft try just there to Van der Meren, but the likes of Mieres actually getting his hands on the ball in some space. We haven't seen Dugonjic yet. Perhaps too much possession kicked away.
So Spiga goes to the back.
It's nice to see the referee getting into the spirit of things. It's a hot day and no one needs to see that called not straight.
Martinez inside, coming through as a Spiga. There's Martinez again. That time to Magno, just over halfway. Martinez again comes in the other direction. Offloads to Badano.
Good pass, good skip pass to find the open man.
Well taken by Matthias Brown. Cafera. Just dropping the shoulder there was Espiga. Cafera again. Mieres coming off the left wing. There's De Freitas. De Freitas feeding outside. That to Levas. But there was a foot in touch.
The Canadians were able to get out and snuff out the drive. I think Mensacoca was pushing him into touch. Really good phase play from Uruguay. Moving it wide, finding little overlaps, a good show. See the attacker coming off his wing, and that held the Canadian defense and almost got a 2-on-1 here. Mensacoca played it well. He held and held and then was able to get his man's foot into touch. Bodies strewn around here.
Well, it is one of those days when you tend to see the front row forwards down on one knee by this stage of the game.
Number 2, red.
But I think there's something a little more serious there. He clearly has taken a bit of a knock. There's one of the men who started. That's the second row, Diego Magno.
Now, things are starting to heat up a little bit here in the stadium with the U.S. taking on Russia after this. And the local Denver support coming out. There have been tournaments on all week. They've had their Division I and Division II club championships. It's a busy time for American rugby.
Eriksson climbing high in the line out there for Canada. They'll be anxious to finish this on the front foot. Fairhurst playing his only game in the Churchill Cup here. He's on his way home on Monday. That was claimed by Kleberger. There's Van der Merwe, one of the try scorers. That was Evans offloading, and Hearn nudges it forward. Referee playing advantage here. And is De Freitas rolling his way up to halfway. Martinez the scrum half. That's Magno. Martinez. Oh, that was a big thump. That came in from DTH Van der Merwe. They turned it over. Here's Tate. Offloading there to Eriksson. Fairhurst. Munro. Now here's an opportunity. It's 3 against 2. Nyanyak Dala. And the big man, Justin Mensah-Coker. So Mensah-Coker scores a 4th Canadian try.
Well, we predicted it. The Uruguayan Broadies are strewn around the park here. And the Canadians, through Justin Mensah-Coker, finally found the hole. It's his first try in this year's Churchill Cup. Good handling again. The Canadians going wide, but this time just not enough Uruguayan defense coming across in the middle to support. That inside support that's so vital when you're defending. Simple hands. Nyanyak Dala showing, committing his defender, and then Mensah-Coker seeing they were running out of defenders, jogged it in under the posts.
Canada have got an abundance of speedy, mobile back row players. Nyanyak Dala, who I can remember seeing in the Churchill Cup a couple of years ago, scoring a glorious try against the United States. Well, he's come on as a replacement here after being involved in the Sevens circuit over the course of the last month or so, and setting things up nicely there for Justin Mensah-Coker.
Yeah, he is. He's a great athlete. They're trying to find a place for him in the team. They even talk about him playing center, but well straightened from Monroe. Dala showing the ball, and that took the defender out. And Mensah-Coker got a mismatch that he was able to jog in. So good basics there. Basics executed well, and points to the result for Canada.
Yes, Dala's an interesting figure, isn't he? Born in Nigeria, his father's a doctor. They moved to Durban. He learnt his rugby at the Glenwood High School, played for Natal under-21s before, like many South African-based doctors, made his way over to Canada. And apparently, if you look on the doctors list in Saskatchewan,
yes,
it's full of Van der Merwe's, Joubert's, and at least one Dala.
Yes. Natal to Saskatchewan, it's a long trip.
Well, Uruguay anxious to get something out of this. They trail by 34 points to 6.
As Rhombus taking it up, he wasn't looking for the long route.
Well, this time, the referee said it's gone forward, so he's playing advantage here to Canada. Monroe sweeps it out wide to Van der Merwe. Van der Merwe's got Mensah-Coker. It could be 2-on-1 here, and Mensah-Coker has got Van der Merwe inside. And Van der Merwe will score his 2nd try, Canada's 5th, and that was well worked by the outside centre and Justin Mensah-Coker. Mensah-Coker could perhaps have gone himself, but he saw steaming across as Juan Pablo Horta, who has probably covered more yards today than anybody.
Yes, he has. But Van der Merwe got in there. Talk about from South Africa to Saskatchewan. He too played for the Rogues in Regina, then to James Bay, and now with Glasgow Warriors. Warriors fans have seen him running a few this year. Just like that. Good unselfish play from Mensah-Coker offloading. And those are the rewards that we thought would come, perhaps maybe 10-20 minutes ago, had Canada been a bit more direct.
Yes, Daniel Tyler Fairhoman. The acronym DTH is how he's known. And as the name would suggest, he's another Canadian rugby player who started his life elsewhere. He played in Worcester, in the old Bourlant, which has produced so many outstanding rugby players over the years.
Well, it was loose ball, defense in tatters, using the options, and unselfish here from Mensah-Coker, offloading back to his provider and getting Van der Merwe the run in under the poles.
Looking quite sprightly today, isn't he, Justin Mensah-Coker?
Yeah, he's had a lot of touches, which obviously you're looking for from your wing. He's a big physical presence, and you want him on the ball.
Dala there nudging forward. It seems to have helped Justin Mensah-Coker, the very fact that his first touch today was a knock-on, and it appears to have inspired him to go looking for the ball to atone for it, and he's done it well and truly.
Yeah, well, it's very similar to what happened to Dala there. The altitude, the ball travels further than you think, and you're not in position to make a good tackle. But really, the story of the match was early on. The forwards have been able to dominate here at the key moments.
Fresh. Touch.
Uruguay will have one good attacking scrum here. Great opportunity, 15 meters out.
Well, the Canadian pack gaining some supremacy, but conceding the penalty. We're into the final minute. Canada running away with it in the end. Time to consider who's our man of the match, Gareth.
Well, as I said, I think the forwards really set the tone. And early on, a man who's impressed so well in Wales this year, and it's a real bright hope. Number 6 red for Canada, Chauncey O'Toole. At the first try, he's been ever present around the base of the scrum, very physical, and really is a bright future. And he's our man of the match today in the first Churchill Cup game here in Denver.
It's Uruguay, who are ending on the front foot here as we move into the final 20 seconds. I think Canada will be keen not to see their try line crossed in every game possession. That was an awkward ball for Andy Munro, but he dealt with it well. There's McKenzie. And suddenly we've got a bit 3 and 2. There's Justin Mensah-Coker feeding inside. There's McKenzie again. Good tackle coming in from Decas. So this will be the final play of the opening match in the Churchill Cup. Good break from Andy Munro. Fine support from Evans. Evans.
Oh, we better get there.
And Evans will get there. So it's another try, and Canada round the contest off in fine style. Matt Evans on his way to the Gwent Dragons next season.
Well, the floodgates are well and truly open. Lots of options for Canada. Matt Evans went on his own. I'm sure the supporting player and Sean White thought he could have offloaded, but he got there on his own. And deserved points for Canada, taking this scoreline to a pretty convincing number at the moment. And really, I think, emphasizing that gap in the world rankings, those 6 places that are there. And in the last 10-15 minutes, we've seen that kind of class from Canada, and we've seen they are a step above the Uruguayans at this stage.
So Canada will fall just short of 50, but in the end, it has been a convincing victory. So Andy Munro, 46, becomes 48. Jerome Garces blows his whistle for the end of the match. And a convincing victory for Canada, but Kieran Crowley, will he find a few problems with that?
I don't think it was the complete performance he was looking for. He's tested a lot of players. Canada were clearly the better side, and in the end took their chances, but I think it was just too long coming. So probably a maybe 80-85% performance from Canada. From Uruguay, they look like a tired side, coming off their winter season. Just a little bit too much for them on this hot day here in Denver.
Gonzalo Camadon, the Uruguay head coach in his first season as an international coach. Will he take away any positives from that?
I think they saw some sparks in the second half. 2 players that I think we have to mention. Firstly, Manuel Martinez, the scrum half. He was trying endlessly, not a lot of options for him. And probably the Uruguay man of the match was Juan Pablo Horta. He was everywhere. He was making tackles. He was lining up Canadians, and he was covering a lot of ground. So positive signs there from those 2 players.
So there it is at the end of the first match here at Rugby Town, Glendale in Denver, Colorado. And it's finished Canada 48, Uruguay 6.